Here it will be how Christ our Lord calls and wants all men beneath his standards, and how Lucifer, on the contrary, wants all men under his. Basically, this is saying that we must have a meditation on Jesus, that Jesus wants us to be with him, but we also should have another meditation that Lucifer wants us to be with him. This is very dangerous territory. But what was the purpose of the Jesuits? And what is the purpose of the Jesuits today? Well, here it says that Ignacio de Loyola, Francis Xavier, and the other gentleman, Pedro Faber, all three vowed a obedience to the Pope Paul III in the 1500s. But they also vowed a life of poverty, chastity, and obedience, strict obedience. What is the importance, and what was the importance in this time of them being formed? Well, if many don't know, please, I urge you to go check out the Protestant Reformation in the 14 and 1500s. It lasted all the way to basically when America was formed. That's why we have America, because of the Protestant Reformation. Go check out that. The reason why the Jesuits were formed was because of the Protestant Reformation. What is the Protestant Reformation? The Protestant Reformation basically was and is the Protestant movement of other Christian religions and or Christian groups that did not want to be under the papal power empire. Go check it out. I'm telling you, it will blow your mind. The Jesuits were the army of the papal empire, and still is, may I say. They were and are a group setting up colleges. Duke. What's another Jesuit college? Georgetown. They set up colleges all over Europe in the 1500s in order to penetrate the minds of all those children of the Protestant Reformation. Because remember, in the Protestant Reformation, there were people such as John Wycliffe. Check him out. Jerome Huss. Check him out. These were people, these were men who stood up on their convictions, saying that the soul is not immortal, saying that you are saved by faith, saying that you do not have to go to a man to go and ask for forgiveness to God. That you can go straight to God. These little doctrines that the papal empire was not teaching and is not teaching. So basically, the Jesuit order, or the Society of Jesus Christ, formed in 1539, was set up to be a counterattack to the Protestant Reformation. And they would do anything to stop the Protestant Reformation. And what would they do? Well, they would infiltrate themselves sometimes in these particular groups, whether it be the Lutheran, whether it be uh, the group of Wycliffe, whether it be the group of Jerome Huss and others, the Wesleyan group. That was a real man. Check him out, Wesleyan. They would infiltrate themselves in these groups and or, like I said, set up universities, the University of Paris, the University in Germany, to infiltrate and penetrate the minds of the children of these men and women who were teaching their children that you did not need to go to a priest to ask for forgiveness of this priest to feel forgiven of God, or that the soul was not immortal, which they're still teaching. I add, what is that, you ask? The immortality of the soul is when you die, what do they teach? When you die, you go to heaven, which is a lie, because strictly in Ecclesiastes 9:5, it says, for the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. So all these different erroneous and devilish doctrines, the papal powers were teaching. And these men, Jerome, Huss, John Wycliffe, Wesleyan, all stood up and said no. Oh, and I forgot as well. I mentioned the Lutherans, and they are from Martin Luther, the biggest of the reformers. Not the most important, but one of the most that we hear about in our time. And he stood up and said, I am saved by faith, because he read in his Bible. Remember, in the 15 and 14 and 16 and 17 and 18, all the way up to almost the 1900s, the Catholic Church would do their masses and their services in Latin. So nobody knew what they were saying, because most of the churches were filled with people that were poor, didn't have no money. So they had to listen to this sermon or program in Latin, in a language they did not know. And remember, Bibles were not allowed in the homes, in the church. The only one who read from the scriptures was the father of that particular cathedral and or church. So remember, the scriptures were manipulated by these priests and fathers. So the Jesuit order was formed to counterattack the Protestant Reformation. And like I said, they would go about, yes, they took on a meek, shall I say, character, where they would go anywhere in the world and be poor, and they wouldn't take big dwellings, where they lived. They wouldn't live lavishly. No, they weren't like the other papal clergies, where the other papal clergies in Rome, they were living lavishly with gold and chains and all of that, and women here, women there, and people couldn't do nothing because people were too poor to protest about this. The only ones that would were these reformers of the Protestant Reformation. That's why Protestant means protest. That's all Protestant means. It's not nothing fancy. It just means protest to the Catholic Church, basically. The popular church. And like I said, the Jesuits were a order that were formed to attack this, because Ignacio, Francis Xavier, and Pedro Faber were soldiers, remember. Soldiers that fought in this battle of Pampeluna in northern Spain. So they had experience in battle as well. And let me tell you, the Jesuits, when a person did not want to retract from their convictions, you know what they would do? And we're going to get into that in our other parts of this study. They would torture them. They would kill them. But before they killed them, they would torture them with different objects. And we will be talking about that later, because they did not want the Protestant Reformation to go through the whole world, because then the papal power empire would not prevail like it did in the 14, 15, and 16, 17, 1800s, as it did. But thank God we had the Protestant Reformation. This is part one, brothers and sisters. I appreciate you watching. We will have more information. I just wanted to give you a little light in what and who the Jesuits are. May God bless, and remember, we are in a great controversy.